Yo, señoras, señores, what you saying? How are you? Big love. Merry Christmas. Recording this 24th of December. It's been a bit of a crazy end to the year. So I haven't been able to kind of get anyone on because trying to get schedules together and getting people together, even on Zoom, can be a tricky thing. Can be tricky. So, as I said, it is Wednesday, the 24th of December. Tomorrow is the big day. The big man's coming. Hopefully, you're on the. Hopefully, you were on the good list because this will come out post Christmas. And we're going to be leaving soon because we're off to family. So I'm going to try and do this all in a one take. You know, adolescence, Russian arc vibes. So, as always, welcome to all you wonderful Film God familia. For those that are first time here, my name is Isusko, Isusko, from the Basque region of Spain, and we try and get people on who are film industry professionals in the UK or around the world. They tell us what they do, how they've got in, their stories, and it's about humans telling us their experience of how they got into what I believe to be the greatest industry ever that humans have ever created. The visual medium of telling stories of real people having real emotions on a set in front of camera and us having a connection to it as the viewer. As you all know, I love my music as well, but for this episode I want to do a roundup. I haven't done one before, and it just felt like, I mean, every year for the last few years seemed to be getting bigger and bigger and more things happening and more things happening. And this year just felt like a massive final reset to show what potentially is coming, what the next evolution of the film industry, the film business is. And we'll get into it more in the episode. But as you know, this Film Gods, the podcast, can sometimes be more than just talking to people about what they do. There's also a little bit of the ethereal. There's sometimes a little bit of the stoic philosophies that I've been reading and books and bits and bobs. And there was one thing in my notes for this episode. It was really, it kind of hit more than information normally does, because you know, you're scrolling on your phone. And there was an article that came up about why time feels like it goes faster as you get older. And you may already know this, but it made sense. If I read something and I kind of go, oh yeah, I believe that, kind of makes sense. I dig that. It then becomes a fact in my head that I then like to share. But please, obviously, do your own research on it, because, you know, the 1st of December came and I'm sitting there on the sofa with my wife and we're just talking. I'm like, this year just felt like it absolutely flew by. Just click. New Year's Eve fireworks over in London, to then getting close to seeing a big man on the 25th of December. If I can, I'm going to try and see if I can set up a little video camera to catch him putting presents under the tree. And just wondered where and how it went so fast. So this isn't film related, but felt like it could be a useful thing to pass on to all you wonderful film crew. And I guess the reason that I thought it would be a fun little topic to just quickly pass over It's because I think the film industry helps us. And as film crew, I think there's elements to what this article said that actually, if we just pay a little bit more attention to it, then maybe we can slow down time. We are power. We are all Marvel heroes that can manipulate time. So it was researched by an American neuroscientist, David Eagleman. And the studies found that time feels like it's moving faster for adults because their brain forms fewer new, distinct memories as life becomes more routine. Which I can summarize it as a child, because everything is new, experiences are new, everything seems to be a new experience. Those experiences get kind of stamped into our brain, and it's all of those little stamps that then make the time feel like summers used to last forever, you know. And as adults, because we're kind of into more routines, and our weeks can sometimes near enough be the same thing, there aren't as many massive brain stamps that get put in. So actually that whole week you might have only done 2 things that were out of slight routine, so then time just feels like it went dunk. Monday to Sunday flew by. And so why time seems to speed up. 1, reduced novelty. In childhood, almost every experience is new, forcing the brain to encode dense, detailed memories. As adults, life becomes more predictable. The brain automizes familiar tasks and stops recording them in high resolution. 2, memory density. Time is measured retrospectively by the density of memory. When you look back at a week with many new experiences, like a vacation, it feels long. When you look back at a week of routine when there are fewer mental timestamps, making the period feel compressed or vanished. And then they talk about how adult brains go between neural states, and there's a whole load of stuff. But I'm not going to bore you with it. But the thing that I thought was quite useful was how to slow down time. Neuroscientists suggest that you can counteract this effect by reintroducing novelty and variety into your life. 1, learn new skills. Taking up a new hobby or language forces the brain to encode new information. 2, change your routine. Even small changes like taking a different route to work or brushing your teeth with the opposite hand can force the brain into an engaged new model. And then 3, practice mindfulness. Being fully present in the moment can help create richer internal markers for time. So you look at those last 3 things of how to slow down time, and potentially as members of the film industry, there's going to be times that you're having to do stuff for the first time on a daily, weekly basis. You know, there's new cameras that come out. If you're a DOP or director or AD and you're going to a different country and you start to learn some of that local language, and I mean, it says change your routine. The routine of an average film crew member, especially if you're in short form, you know what you're doing day to day, week to week, month to month, you know. And there is no wake up at 6, shower at 6:30, train at 7, work at 9, sit at desk, talk to Trevor about the football or whoever about the weather, you know, leave at 5, home at 7, blah, 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 rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. You know, we're kind of like standing in a car park in Slough in the rain, do that for 12 hours. Then the next day you're in a engineering facility out in Essex, cut to a tiny 4-3 bedroom house in wherever, there is no routine. So actually maybe we're in the best industry to be able to slow down time. And that last one of practice mindfulness, being fully present in the moment, the ability to have to be in the moment on a film set, for most people, is an essential part of one, doing your job, and two, being professional and getting called back. You know, it's like things change when you're lighting. You have to adjust when you do. You know, you're constantly moving lights until everyone's happy. When you're shooting, focus pullers need to be. You know, it's just every single role has to be completely in the moment. So, hoo-ha, we're in the best industry to be able to slow down time. Well done, everyone, for being in this industry and for choosing it. You're all amazing. I hope you all had a lovely Christmas, and let's get into the episode.
Ladies and gentlemen.
So, 2025 roundup. It took a little while just to write some notes down, and there seems like there's so much that's happened and so many things that I could have spoken about. What I need to try and do is create some sort of narrative for 2026 that seem to start and end, and try and find some beginning and endings to what's happened and where it's gone. But I don't know if anyone else has felt it, but 2025 felt like such a massive shift is happening or has happened. It's like, I don't know whether the volcano has exploded and we're now just getting all of the pyroclastic flow just hitting us, or if these are the tremors before the volcano erupts. I'm still debating, but I kind of want to go start the year in January, and I think, and I'm not going to do a roundup now, but I think what I've seen and what I keep hearing and reading about is the evolution of the film industry. And I think technology will play a massive part, one, in this episode, but two, in the future of what we call the British film industry or the film industry in general. So, for those of you listening abroad, I'm based in London, in England. I work in short form, but I've been dipping my toe recently into kind of longer form, so Amazon shows, just longer factual entertainment. Um, and it was nice to kind of get that other side of what being on a 4 week shoot, a 6 week, those longer type format shoots entail. And so January 2025, the articles that made me unhappy is the wrong word, but there was a whole segment of articles about second screen and how we are, as an industry, for certain aspects of long form, being asked to dumb down the narrative, the words, the script, because the vast majority of people are sitting there watching our programs on their phone. Which, I gotta be honest, there are times that I've done it. I'm not going to start preaching like I don't. Um, I think it'd be a bit much if you're in a cinema to do it, but I'm sure that there are some people so addicted to TikTok and Instagram that they just can't help themselves. But secondary screen, mate, yeah, it did make me a little sad, because what we're being asked to do is, in the scripts, in the words, is have people announce what they're doing, announce that they're coming into a room. Hello, wife, I am walking into the kitchen now where you seem to be having an affair, instead of just shot, door opens, man walks in, wife having an affair with the neighbor. You kind of, once you start taking away the need for concentration or attention on a visual image, then you're just basically making a podcast with some sort of shit visuals. It's just, and I just had the next slasher movie, instead of, like, you know, the person with a mask on slowly creeping into the house. It's going to be more like Home Alone. Kevin, we're gonna be coming in through the back door. You start to think, well, what's the point of making these things? And the reason that it makes me unhappy is the fact that as industry professionals, we are asked to work some ridiculous hours. And I know that there's health and safety, and we've got to do, you know, trying to create some sort of work-life balance. But we all know the truth is there is no work-life balance because when you're at work, that's it. You're up early, you work long hours, you go home late, you leave your clothes in the washing basket, you get up and you go and do it all again. You don't see your kids, you don't see your friends, you don't do anything. But the that's part of the relationship that we have with our work that we want to do it. It's very hard to get into. It's very hard to sustain. There's no job security, but we do it because we love it and we love the people. And as I've said in past episodes, it is the last bastions for misfits. It's kind of like it's an industry where there are some very amazing people, and we get to go to some amazing places and do some amazing things that the general public would never be allowed to go into. You know, shooting in Buckingham Palace or Pompeii or up in mountains or down in, we get to do some amazing things. And we put a lot on our friends and family. They have to be very understanding. And if the stuff that we're making is just background noise, is it worth all the divorces that will probably happen because people are away from home so much? So that started the year. Um, and then we get into February 2025. Technicolor closes down, the MPC and the Mill closures. So two of the three massive post-production houses in the UK in London, Soho, closed their closed their doors. And that really it shook an industry, but I think there was a vast majority of the people in post who I was speaking to after the fact that went, yeah, we could kind of see it coming. That juggernaut, um, huge, massive corporation with hundreds of people, working on multiple films, doing hundreds, potentially thousands of shots per film. That model seems to be changing, and I think tax credits for studios to be able to go and do other, smaller, and also it spreads the risk. It spreads the risk instead of one company doing the entire film. You look at Fantastic Four and you look at who did what, and you're like, this company out in New Zealand did one bit, this company somewhere else did a little bit. They just looked after the flaming arm or the flying flag. They just managed to now go right instead of one company or two companies doing the entire film. They go right. Well, we'll use 10 companies to do all of it. We mitigate risk. We maximize our tax credits, and there's probably a load of other beneficial reasons for doing it. And that might mean that post houses then specialize in stuff. Who knows? I'm not really big into the post world, but that was a massive hit because it came overnight as a closure. I think there'd been, whispers of financial mismanagement and all the rest of it. And I don't want to get too deep into it because I don't have all the facts, and I'm not going to use this as a platform to say that, X spent too much and Y took too much of a percentage, and they took this and he took that and she took this. But as an industry, that was a huge, huge blow to a lot of people that would have lost a lot of jobs. Um, and I pray and I hope that they found their feet and everyone got into the industry. Sorry, that everyone stayed in that wanted to stay in, that could stay in and found other jobs and was able to keep doing what they do and stay in the industry that they love. Um, and then kind of start to get into this into the year. You get these. There was an article that I read kind of in the early spring that Warner Brothers and Ryan Reynolds were going to be turning some of their unused studio space into pickleball courts. You start going, right, if Warner Brothers at this point, and I'm retrospectively looking back of where we are now with Warner Brothers, you start thinking, well, if one of the largest creators of films for the last however many years is starting to want to turn their studios into pickleball courts. And what was the name that I saw? It was just like, yeah, it was just so beautifully American. Maximum effort pickleball. It sounds like a show that I'd watch, you know. Um, but a reality check on well, these huge creators of film and TV are thinking that they need to change their business model to help create more cash flow to keep alive. It's kind of like the first warning shot of what was coming this year for them. Um, and then we start hitting late spring, early summer, and Pinewood Studios that had in 2023 a massive expansion of their studio. I think they had like put in planning permission for 21 bigger, more sound stages out in Iverheath. Um, then in the kind of spring summer, they were then put in a different application where they're actually going to be shutting down a vast majority, if not all, of their TV studios and actually building a like $1 billion, I think was the latest figure that I saw, data center. So coming off the back of Warner Brothers going, well, let's make some pickleball. Pinewood that have just, in the last 2 years, 3 years, that have been pumping money into Shepperton Studios to make that the second largest or the largest, I think, studios on the planet. The industry hadn't really found its feet post 23 strikes. And, unless you're in that top 10% of filmmakers that are just constantly busy, because they are always going to be busy, if you're in that, 80% of the rest of us, been a really tricky couple of years. Really tricky couple of years. There's been the level of consistency hasn't been there. You if you are busy, there's that always that weird little section that you feel slightly embarrassed, or you don't really want to say if you've had a good month, or you don't want to say you've had a good, really good quarter or a half a year, because you don't know who's had what. So you just go, yeah, yeah, it's been all right. Um, as a lot of other people do. It's very rare that anyone is truly honest if they've had the best year ever, which I doubt many people have the last 2 years. Um, but I know, but as we can tell by the amount of content that's on the streaming platforms, there's still stuff being made. It's not as if it's all closed. But Pinewood turn around and looking to the future, I guess, saying, right, what's going to make us more money in over the next 40, 50 years? 21 studios or data centers? Someone somewhere said we got to take the punt on the data centers, which I can understand. I can understand it. Um, then the summer comes and we get what's our young lady's name? Tilly Norwood, which feels like the actual start of some sort of AI um, split. And I want to call it a split because I don't want to call it a takeover. Um, and so Tilly Norwood was created by, I can see it here, by Studio Particle 6. And what they've said is that Tilly Norwood isn't here to take the jobs of actors, but as SAG-AFTRA said at the time, kind of to paraphrase, they've gone, well, this AI actor has just ripped from the current data points, if you want to call it, of other actors and their voices and mannerisms um, that already exist. So it's going to be a really interesting few years with what AI is going to be doing from an acting perspective, because to be frank, AI has been in post production for many, many years. It just hasn't been called AI, um, and hasn't been as, AI will give us tools in filmmaking to be able to do things that we weren't ever able to do before. But I think this Tilly Norwood coming in and kind of going, I'm an actor. And I always like to put myself in the situation, or myself in the shoes of an individual. Um, Not so much hers, but say if I'm a director and I'm a physical human person that would then be sitting down on Zoom, I guess, because there's no way to be in a room with Tilly Norwood. Um, and you're having that chemistry call that seems to, be a useful thing where you're kind of getting to know each other. There'd be a part of me as a director that just goes, has this Tilly Norwood just ripped through my Instagrams, Facebook's, whatever social information is out there to know that I like X and Y and Z, and my favorite directors are this, and my favorite genre is that. So that when I'm having a conversation with her, she knows exactly what to say to get on my good side. I put in inverted commas, but do you know what I mean? There's no, oh, I actually genuinely like that kind of conversation. It's just like, yeah, yeah, I like that genre as well. You're like, do you actually? Is there any connection here between a human and an AI actor? Um, I guess there can't be, because they're just kind of ones and zeros. And it's a really, I mean, it's there's so many sci-fi movies in the past that seem to just be coming reality. And it's going to be a really interesting few years of where are we going? What are we doing? What is the end game? Film industry is a business, and it's the business of wrapping up human emotion in a visual art form to wash its face, to make its money back that it took to make it, plus profit, so that the studios can then pump that into other films. It's a business. And if it is a business, then where do you save? How do you cut costs? Well, I guess from a producer's perspective, if you're not paying loads of actors, humans, actual human beings money, or as much money, then that's got to be some sort of incentive to be using these AI actors, which then starts to bring us round towards the end of the year, where um there was a, and I'm going to get it up because it's just some boggling numbers there. So December, um and there was a vote with the equity members who voted overwhelmingly to refuse digital scanning in a move which could have big impacts for the UK film and TV industry. And so they saw a turnout of 70 of over 75%, and over 99% of those who voted said that they would be prepared to refuse a set scan. Now, for those of you new to this is where an actor gets a 360 kind of render photographs of themselves to then be able to scan them, build them in post, to then be able to replicate them and use them in the film. Now, it has been going on for a little while, and I remember years ago we were doing it because there was a scene where an actor had to do something that, stuff like putting an actor's face on a baby's body, and or just doing a stunt that they couldn't do, and just things that would either be too costly for the production or too dangerous. You're able to then kind of put that actor into that situation, and you have a scan of them. Um, but I think the fears now is what is happening with those scans, and are those scans going to then be able to train models or have their likenesses used? So, the SAG-AFTRA strike that happened back in 2023 started to dig into it, and they came to an agreement that everyone was happy with. And I think Equity are now looking to build on those. Um, and they're at a bit of a standstill with Pact, and so they're going to be coming back to the talking. I was going to say the conference table, but they're going to be coming back to the table. I think in January, once everyone's had their full of mince pies and watching films, um, to then see where it goes. But 99% is a massive, massive percentage of actors that are genuinely concerned about their futures. And as film crew, you think, well, if we're not filming actors on real sets or even on green screen, what are we doing? Where are we going? What is our point in this whole future? And what the Tilly Norwood, I'll just call them the Tilly Norwood team. What they're saying is that that there'll be a split between AI content or AI entertainment, as they've tagged it, and normal, let's say normal, sorry, it's not normal, but human entertainment. So, you know, I've got to be honest, I've done it. I've scrolled on social media and seen AI content that are either jokes or scenarios that would never really happen on in normal life, that you get as like news reporters where they're talking about weather, and then all of a sudden there's just a shark that comes out, all of these kind of silly little things, and they're like, I was having a discussion with my brother, and you look at what AI is doing at the minute, and it seems like it's bombarding social media algorithms with 8-second little clips of random things happening that make you laugh. You showed me one of like chiropractors, and it's AI chiropractors, doing, being chiropractors on human beings, but then doing something that would never happen. And the end scenario makes you laugh or makes you giggle, or something happens. You're like, it's entertained you for 8 seconds. And I don't know whether that those small little drips of 8 seconds of AI entertainment is the start of whoever's creating it getting us used to seeing AI, getting us used to having ones and zero characters generated in AI through an amalgamation of thousands of or millions of other data points of other human beings, and us starting to just get used to it, so that maybe a 15-second short or a half-hour TV show doesn't become so strange. I don't know. But you look at the stick that the Coca-Cola commercial, Christmas commercial, seems to have had online. It's had the most kind of social hits, or imprints or reactions, and a vast majority have been negative. And I personally think that there is a need for human beings to connect with other human beings. And we'll get into it as a sum up because I think the last little point to just touch base on is the Warner Brothers takeover by Netflix and Paramount. And so I'm sure most of you have heard Warner Brothers, Netflix came in with an offer to buy almost all of Warner Brothers, but segment it, and they need to kind of put their global to put part of their network into a separate company, and then they would buy one section, and then Paramount came in and just went, "We're going to top you and give you more money and just buy it all outright." So there's a bit of a, I think it was described as a hostile takeover bid, which the Warner Brothers board, I don't think, want to sell to Paramount. And they had already accepted Netflix, um, the sale to Netflix. So you kind of look at the year as a whole in those few little moments and you go, right, well, we started off of the year with companies like Netflix, these streamers that are making untold amounts of content to have more second screen stuff. You've then got Warner Brothers needing to turn studios into pickleball courts. Then we start getting into the AI of it after the collapse of post-production houses, and and finish the year with actors concerned and potentially going on strike in the new year, and a sale of Warner Brothers. So that it's not small little moments that have happened this year. There's some fucking huge things that are happening that no one really knows where we're going. But I guess my sum up, because I wanted to keep this a short episode, but my sum up is, as with all of it, is that there is hope, as there always will be if you allow yourself to look at it with some sort of positive light. AI coming in and having AI actors, it's going to be disruptive. It's already going to be disruptive. And I think if my industry was merely just number crunching, I'd be really concerned, like really, really concerned. But as an industry and as an art form, humans want to see other humans having a human emotion. Um, Seeing actual people going through something and it being filmed in reality. But I don't know whether that's just a generational thing. And I'm not sure if the AI experience for maybe not our kids, but maybe our grandkids, our great grandkids, whether it will have the same impact or whether it will have more impact because they would have grown up seeing AI actors cry and be scared and be happy and have joy. And it would just be their part of their visual language will just be seeing created humans on a screen having a created emotion. And whether they'll care, don't know. Not sure. I don't know. But I know that it's important for this generation. And it's for us as film crew, for us as producers, for us as creators, and also for us as consumers of the visual arts to use our eyeballs as metrics and going to the cinema or where will the cinema, I mean, that's the bigger thing is where will the cinema be? If it's not a massive franchise, is it doing well in the cinema? Maybe not. Where do they go? The streamers. Well, the streamers now, if streamers are putting in $100 billion bids to buy legacy film studios that made their own films on their own sites, and the market's changing, the industry's changing, the industry is evolving, and I've got runners that work for me that are trying to understand AI, that are trying to be at the forefront of what's happening, and it's giving them, as digital cameras probably did for certain parts of the visual art forms, it allowed everyone to be able to make a film. But just because digital cameras were created, it didn't mean that everyone could make a good film. And just because AI allows anyone to be able to create moving images doesn't mean that everything that is made is going to be any good. Everyone's got a camera in their phone. So the world has, 4 billion potential photographers. That doesn't mean everyone can take a photo. That's not how it works. And so I'm not as scared as I was a few years ago about AI. I think it will give more people the opportunity to create visual art. Like you think about if you went to film school, you had to go to the office, you had to hire out the camera, you had to, hopefully get someone that knew how to light something, how to record the sound, how to do this. And that would take a crew of 10. Well, all those 10 can now, even if it's just make their previs in in AI, or yeah, I'm not as scared as I was. So I'm going to leave you with that for a visual for a visual art form, our connection with other human beings is the most important thing for filmmaking at the minute. And as AI keeps coming in and keeps getting pushed, that it actually allows for more people to create films with their voice that may not get the chance to be made by your standard film studios because it doesn't tick their box for that year, because they can't see the benefit in making a film about what you have and your friends and your community have a passion about. So it will allow more films to be made, but I don't think it will be the end of the film industry. I think it's the start of a new beginning, and it's giving the power back to the people instead of in the hands of a few execs that actually want to make Fast and Furious 78 or whatever they're on at the minute. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting. There will be disruption, but going into that new year, I have new hope that out of out of chaos comes opportunity, and creativity will be allowed to flourish, and we'll all be able to coexist. AI entertainment one neck of the one side, and you'll be able to create your own little 8-piece drama that you just love because you love cowboys or you love westerns, but you also love, English royalty and Japanese anime. Donk. Put it into AI. You get your 30-minute episodes, and that's yours. And you've created that. And that's for you. And then you'll go and you'll watch that human-made, episodic, visual art that everyone can then go to the office and say, "Did you see that? Did you see yesterday's episode? What? This is crazy. I think it was her. I think it was him. I think it was this. I think it was that." And that's the beauty of film, and that's the beauty of our industry. And I love you. Have an amazing new year. It was a one take. I promised you it'd be. I didn't think it'd be this long, but I went for it. We'll see what happens. I love you all. Have an amazing end to 25, and let's get cracking in 26. Adios. Oh yeah, don't forget, if you liked it, subscribe, share, comment. I'm going to throw some videos out on the old TikTokeramus and Instagram and all that kind of stuff. So comment. If I've got it wrong, tell me. If I've said something that resonated, tell me. Just tell me. Share. Let's all keep talking. All right. Until we meet again, ladies and gents, that is a wrap. So that was a chat with the king or queen in the game. I'll give it a shout at the end so you all know the name. It's the Film Gods Podcast. The what? The Film God Podcast.